Hi, today we are going to talk about maximum point blank range. This is a concept that I thought was pretty well understood by a lot of people in the rifle community, but apparently it's not. I'll explain why in a moment. What is maximum point blank range? That means that you can sight in your rifle in such a way that at a certain range, at a certain distance, you don't have to, anything that is inside that distance, you don't have to hold over, you don't have to hold under, you just aim straight at the center of your target. Your target could be a steel plate, it could be the vital zone of a deer or an elk or some other animal. And the advantage to that is you have to understand that the bullet is going to do its job, whether it hits near the top of that kill zone or the bottom of it. It's a kill zone. Your bullet's going to take care of the business. So the whole point is to just be able to hit it somewhere within that target size. And so if you set up your rifle correctly, you don't have to hold over or hold under. Now, this is something that in the practical rifle community we've been doing for years. We sight in our rifles at about 200 yards for a zero range, and it will drop less than 4 or 5 inches, going all the way up to about 250, 260 yards. So we consider that our maximum point blank range. I was listening to a podcast the other day with a guy in the shooting industry. Excuse me, I have a lunatic cat. He'll get in the frame, that's all right. This guy is very well known in the long range shooting community. If I mentioned his name, you would know exactly who I'm talking about. He has his own podcast, he's a trainer, and he was talking about going to Africa and the fact that in Africa, he would see game that could have as big as a 12-inch vital zone. So he set up his rifle for maximum point blank range out with a 12-inch target. Now, the first thing to me is I said, well, wouldn't you set it up for the smallest target? Okay, he set it up for the largest, but whatever. But then he said something that struck me as bizarre. He said, you know, if I set it up like that, I'm going to have a maximum point blank range of about 380, maybe a little bit more. I said, wait a second, 380 yards? Are you serious? Maybe it's 370. Anyway, it was something absurdly long. And because this guy is so heavily respected, I decided I needed to research and figure out, what is this guy talking about? How can you have a maximum point blank range that is so far off the charts from anything else that we in the practical rifle community have ever seen? Well, I figured it out. What I figured out is this website. This is shooterscalculator.com. This is a fantastic website, actually. So I'm going to plug in the information that should pretty closely approximate what he's doing. He's probably shooting a 143 grain Hornady bullet, which claims to have a .58 G1. I don't know the velocity. Let's leave it at 20, well, it's probably 2,900 feet per second. Height over bore is going to be at 2.5. If you're using a chassis rifle, that's about normal. And you set up for a 12-inch target size. Now, do you see any problems yet? Because it's there. Let's show you what this chart creates. This is going to show you that your maximum point blank range is 395 yards. Wow. The bullet is going to leave the barrel and it's going to cross the line of sight the first time at 31 yards. It's going to crest out and then come back down and cross it again at 336 yards. And that means that at 100 yards, if you take it to a sight-in range, sight it in at 4 inches high at 100 yards, and you'll have this all put together. Let me show you what that looks like when you chart it out. I took this is the ballistics trajectory tab on the same website. 2,900 feet per second. I put zero range of 336 because that's where it crosses the line. I want you to see what this bullet is doing. So at 100 yards, 4 inches high. At 400 yards, it's gone just past 6 inches low. Well, if you've got a 12-inch target, that means, yeah, 395 yards, it's 6 inches low, you're going to hit the target, right? Well, maybe not. Here's the problem. If you are shooting a group size of 0 MOA, meaning there's no dispersion, yeah, you'll hit the target. If you're that good to be able to stack every single round on top of itself at 400 yards, that'll work for maximum point blank range. Under field conditions, are you capable of that level of accuracy? Now you might be, and in fact, the guy that did this podcast, I know he's that good from a shooting bench. Maybe not at 400, but at 100, he probably is doing something under, a half MOA. But that's not a realistic number to use when you're talking about shooting at long range. A guy named Chris Way put together something called the Craft Rifle Drill. The Craft Drill has guys shooting from standing, kneeling, sitting, and prone. And they do that, they shoot from each of those positions 3 times, total of 12 targets on paper. This drill is meant to help you diagnose where you need help with your fundamentals. You know what the average group size in the Craft Drill is? It's 3.5 inches at 100 yards. Now, there's another very well-known name in the rifle community, Frank Galley. Frank Galley posted a picture of his Craft Drill. You know how big his group was? This is a guy whose fundamentals are beyond reproach. Just under 2 inches. So a 2 MOA shooter from field positions. You know what 2 MOA looks like at 400 yards? It's an 8-inch group. If you have an 8-inch group, that means that some of the bullets are going to be above the intended spot, some are going to be below, and it could be below by as much as 4 inches. You drop 4 inches off of this, you missed the target. You went 4 inches underneath that animal. But what happens at 200 yards? At 200 yards, you're 5.9 inches high, right? Okay, well, you also have a group size of 4 inches, meaning chances are those shots could be as much as 2 inches above that. You just went over the back of it. You miss at both extremes. The formula for calculating this maximum point blank range kind of falls apart because of it doesn't take into account group size. Well, there's a way to fix that. Instead of using a 12-inch target, we're still going to assume that the target really is 12 inches, but we're going to recalculate it using a 6-inch target size. Well, at 6 inches, now your maximum point blank range is 300 yards. We just knocked 100 yards off of our maximum point blank range. But our FAR 0 is 258, so I ran another chart using that same information. And now you can see at 200 yards, even if we add 2 inches to that, we're still going to hit the target, aren't we? And if we go down to 300 yards, which is our maximum, if we drop another 3 inches off of that, we still hit our target. You have to take into account target size, including what your dispersion is. So use this tool. This is a fantastic tool, but you have to use it with a bit of intelligence. You need to look at it critically and realize that every one of your shots is not going to hit the exact spot that you want. There's going to be some group size in there, and you accommodate for that by reducing your target size. I actually think 6 inches is too big. I don't think that's realistic. I think that it probably makes more sense if you're going to be shooting anything other than the largest of animals. You're going to be starting with about a 9-inch target size to begin with, and then you need to knock it down from there. So I actually think a 4-inch target size makes a whole lot more sense because it takes into account what you are going to be able to do realistically from field positions. You set it up like that and you've got a very, very practical rifle. Now, if you're going to be shooting at longer ranges, yes, dial it. Dial your range or use holdovers. Absolutely, that's what you should be doing. And you zero your rifle for 100 yards and then figure out where you need to be to get to a maximum point blank range. You go out into the hunting field like that and you're in really good shape. That's a great way to set up your rifle. I really don't know what to say about this expert that claimed that he had that long of a maximum point blank range. It still makes absolutely no sense. I don't know why this isn't a real obvious thing, but clearly it isn't, and that's why I wanted to address it today. Hope this makes sense. Hope I don't get too much hate mail on it. So if you like this content, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.